It's time to break down the biggest stories of the day. This is the top 3 stories of the day on KSLSports.com. 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob Ben, nominate the youth sports volunteer you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at KSLSports.com/contest and listen every Thursday to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals. Ben, pardon me if this is old news, but I just saw this on the Snap Talk. The Ace Bailey video of he and his family getting jazz gear. You know what I'm talking about?
He looks livid to be here.
This is why I had my opinion, why everybody was freaking out.
Yeah.
It's going to be fine.
I think he's probably at wherever.
He and it must be his sister.
I think his sister and his mother
are opening up jazz gear like jerseys and stuff.
Got his black number 19 jazz jersy.
They're dancing and showing off.
He's got his dog.
It's hilarious and kind of relatable.
Absolutely.
And you just, all along, it's an 18-year-old young person who's making his leap into the adult world. You know, like, stuff happens, but he's going to go. He's going to adjust. He's going to love it. The Jazz are going to treat him like he's the next superstar. And you know what? You're going to have the opportunity to open up cool stuff with your family and do cool videos and be a person. We forget these guys are people.
Yeah, let's talk about this because we talked about Summer League takeaways. I have another one, but we'll save it for top 3 stories.
Ben's hot takeaways from Summer League.
Yeah, take that. BHTTFSL.
Coming up soon.
Yeah, I've always said that.
I don't know if that rolls off the tongue quite like I anticipated, but all right. Time for the top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com, sponsored by J. Brooks Jewelers. Cherish your love with J. Brooks Jewelers. Explore their expertly crafted engagement rings made from the finest materials. J. Brooks Jewelers. All right, Christian, where are we starting today?
Number 1, Big 12 had their media days in Frisco, Texas the last couple days. Let's get into some takeaways from that.
Let me just say this, that last year was so frustrating and so disappointing. Couldn't possibly have said, okay, that's it. I just couldn't have walked away on that note. It was the most frustrating year of my coaching career, and I would have never been able to come to terms with that, to have that be the last of a career.
Does that vibe with I'm doing what's best for the program for you? Because that was the narrative for Kyle Whittingham, was that he thought he was going to do what was best for the program, and he decided.
Well, he's what's best for the program.
That he was what's best for the program.
It does not vibe, no. But I didn't necessarily believe the best for the program when he said that.
Okay.
And while that sounds harsh, Witz deserved to go out on his own terms. I mean, Utah is not the first university who's dealing with the end of the career of a legendary coach. We've seen it lots of places, and usually it doesn't end very well. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But when Bobby Bowden was leaving Florida State, he kind of deserved a little grace on when to go out.
Sure.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there's some encouragement at the end because these coaches just love to really hang on. I'm not saying that every situation is the cleanest thing in the world, but the coach's opinion matters. You know, he's earned a little grace on when is the right time to exit stage left. And so we made jokes about, what's best for the team? Me. Yeah. And it's begging for jokes to be made about it. But, Witt's a great coach. He runs a great program. He's done it for a long time. He's earned so much for that university. He deserves a little grace on his exit strategy. And if he's thinking of his legacy and that's important to him, well, that's fine with me.
I think several things are true. I agree with you. What he just said does not vibe with I'm doing what's best for the program. That doesn't mean Witt being there is also not what's best for the program.
Can be true. The same can be true.
Both things can be true.
Yeah,
and that's how I
that.
feel. Witt right now is in that awkward area of should I retire? Is it getting awkward? It is. It's a little bit right there. The hard part is when you have the guys who get through that uncomfortable phase, and then they're just like, oh, I'm totally cool in this spot where I've passed the awkward part of it, and I'm just going to stick here as long as I want to now because I dealt with that at one point, and I just think I know better. I don't think we will get there with Witt. I think he's too self-aware to get there.
Now, for Morgan Scalley's sake, I hope what happens to him is not what happened in other situations with coaches in waiting.
Agreed.
Namely, I could give you a couple examples, but Bud Foster was Frank Beamer's longtime defensive coordinator. By the way, my dad ran into Bud Foster. We could probably get him onto the air if we want to talk to legendary Virginia Tech defensive coordinator Bud Foster. My dad says
How could you pass?
He said Bud has tons of hot takes on the NIL and where stuff's going.
I bet he does.
If we wanted to do that, we could probably make that happen. But anyway, old Bud was waiting for Frank to step aside. And then when Frank stepped aside, they passed over Bud and hired that bozo from Memphis, Fuente. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They did not. Yeah, BYU to a certain extent. Norm Chow was the guy to take over Lavelle, and they pushed Norm out 2 years before Lavelle, at least a year before Lavelle decided to leave. So, coaching and waiting has not always been the smoothest transition in the world. And I think, you listen to Whit down there talk about it, and he mentioned Morgan every time they're talking about making decisions and things like that. So you would hope it goes a bit more smoothly.
Like that?
This is what happens when coaches get older, and at some point a page is going to be turned. And honestly, Whit isn't that old.
No, he's not.
How old was old Joe Pa?
Much older.
His 80s, right? Or something like that?
Yeah.
Like that.
The one thing
Like that?
I would also add, and it's because I don't think there's really a whole lot of rhyme or reason to recruiting in general, and I think Utah's had a pretty stellar recruiting class, this last one, of the guys that they got transferring in, and it seems like they got most of their targets, and Devin Dampier and Wayshawn Parker, et cetera. And you retained a lot of guys, not everyone, but you retained a lot of them. I do think that's due to Whit. I do think that's something you can have when Whit is your coach.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you had a new coach, whoever it was, this is not a Morgan Scally thing, it's an anybody thing, I'm not sure you get the same investment. There might be a little bit more, well, I'll revisit it next year if you have a successful first season. Having Whit there allows you to course correct more rapidly than maybe you would have been able to otherwise, in my opinion. So I think that's where Whit coming back is, again, what actually is what's best for the program. Even if the reason he really wanted to come back was to not go out on that losing note.
Oh, I think it's 100% about his legacy. As far as BYU goes, now listen, media days, nobody's lost, so everybody's in a good mood. We've talked about that before. But I thought BYU put a good face on what I'm guessing is a more panicky situation about the quarterback behind the scenes. Like, everybody said the right things and showed confidence in the players that are there. But listen, coaches think a lot about recruiting cycles and things like that and having things line up. There would never have been a 2008 Utah Sugar Bowl run if they hadn't planned on a group maturing and getting better and all being basically seniors together and performing at the same time, or being upper class. It's quite on purpose that you plan things to be, okay, this is our year that we're going to be really good. And you develop quarterbacks for that. We saw that with Tyler Huntley. Remember when they picked him for the job over, I shouldn't forget these names. Kendall Thompson?
No,
that was.
But anyway,
you get my point. And they were making that move for 2 years down the road when everybody was going to be older and successful and all this stuff. Well, BYU is in the win now year, and they went from having an upperclassman proven, all conference level quarterback to a young guy with no experience.
Yeah.
On a year where they need the experience.
Troy
you know
Williams,
what I mean?
By the way, Troy Williams.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like, it's no coincidence that Dennis Pitta, Austin Collie, and Max Hall, and Harvey Unga, for that matter, all came of age together, and that they were awesome in their last 2 years. Well, this is supposed to be the years of awesomeness for BYU, and they've got a big hole at the most important position that could submarine it all. Whose thoughts are these, Christian? Here's Kalani giving his thoughts on the quarterback.
I think it's going to be a little bit different. I mean, last year we were going through the same thing and trying to figure out who our quarterback was going to be with Gary Bohannon and Jake Retzlaff.
That's right.
So we've been through quarterback battles before as a staff. A-Rod's done this before. I think the key is allowing McKay Hillstead to play and be himself and utilize his skill set, and then Trayson Bourget to do the same thing, and then Bear Bachmeyer to do the same thing, and then Emerson. We have 4 quarterbacks that can spin it.
I don't know.
One of the things we are forgetting, because it's just easy to do, is yes, what type of conversation a year ago we were having between Bohannon and Retzlaff, and how bad Jake had been at the end of the 2023 season, that forced so many questions about why would he be the guy in 2024. And now we are overlooking of how much better he was than anybody expected.
In 2024,
In 2024. He was awful in 2023. He was exceptional in 2024. And now I think we're almost glossing over the fact that he was exceptional in 2024 and that you are replacing a very, very good football player.
Well, yes, I certainly agree with all that. And think about this. The team was a lot better in 2024 too, which also helps. But
then 2023?
Yeah, but Jake personally had to have the experience of 2023 to get to 2024.
Yes.
So now, if you had 2023 Jake, where he got thrown into the deep end, on the 2024 team, outcomes probably would have been significantly different, certainly at the beginning of the year. So now you've got a great team, like a 2024 team, but you're throwing the 2023 Retzlaff in with the great team.
Yes, exactly right.
That's the problem.
Yes.
Because that's how you submarine a great team. I don't know if it's entirely the truth, but that's what every Ute fan will tell you about last year.
100%.
So I think there's more panic than what Kalani's saying. We've got 4 guys that can spin it. He's way more worried about it than that, or I would be.
Yes, and they are. And it will be pretty obvious pretty quickly if BYU does not have the quarterback that matches the quality of the defense or the running backs or the wide receivers, and where they have a lot of strengths, which
now,
they do. They have a lot of strengths all over the field.
If they end up starting McKay Hillstead and the reasoning is that he helps the run game, I'm going to be really concerned.
Okay.
Worked out last year.
It did work out last year, so I'm more than happy to be wrong. But I never liked that reasoning for starting a quarterback.
Yeah.
But if the reasoning is we've got 4 guys that can spin it, well, now you're talking about. But I don't know if I'm quite there yet. I'll have to see it.
We have 4 quarterbacks that can spin it.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah. It's what BYU's entire season hinges on, unfortunately, because they have a lot of talent elsewhere.
All right, what's next?
Number 2, book it. Zeke locks down his guy.
What a headline.
Who wrote that?
What a headline. Book it. Zeke locks down his guy.
Yeah.
Isaiah Thomas got his guy, Ben.
SEO has ruined good headlines, by the way, because that's a great headline. But if you were to put that in, nobody would ever find your article because people just Google search Devin Booker. How much money, Devin Booker? There's no book it. Zeke gets his guy.
There's no room for creativity anymore in headline writing.
No, there's not.
That's a real shame. That's a real shame.
It is. It's horrendous. But yes, Devin Booker signs the richest contract in NBA history.
Contract extension, right?
Yes.
2 years, $145 million maximum contract extension.
So what, $72 million a year?
But this also doesn't kick in until, 2028?
Right. It's an extension tacked on at the end of his current deal. So it doesn't start next season. It's a couple of years down the line still. But yeah, we're at that point where guys are making $70 million a year in the NBA. It's unbelievable.
Will he see the end of that contract with the Suns?
That's interesting. You know, he has said over and over, I want to win with Phoenix. I want to, have my most success here. I don't think those two things are possible. Unlike what Witt said, those do not vibe. Phoenix has so butchered their future and their lack of control of their own draft picks, et cetera, which, you don't have to only have your own draft picks to do well. Having talent helps, but you don't even have the ability to make trades now because they're in salary cap hell, and it sounds like they're going to buy out Bradley Beal, which I think is short-sighted. Just eat his contract for 2 years and then be free of it and then start over in 2 years from now. But you're going to waive him, and you're going to stretch his contract out, so you're going to pay him $20 million a year or more for the next 5 years. It's just like, it's pretty untenable. It's just having that much dead salary on your books is really, really difficult to do because that's a roster player you essentially can't have on your team because the money is locked up to a guy who's playing for somebody else. So they're short-sighted, and it's going to make it really hard to win there. So I wonder if he signed this extension. Now it's on the books. Now he's going to make $72.5 million, and he can go wherever he wants and still get paid because he wouldn't have been able to sign that money with another team.
Not if he's the old maid, which is the danger.
Sure. Maybe he's replaces the old maid.
Maybe
the new
right.
old maid.
Never trade for the old maid.
Right.
Of course, if you don't get that reference, we created that about Bradley Beal, because if you've ever played the game, The Old Maid, the concept is to not
Grab the card.
Get stuck with the old maid by the end of the game, right? And so there's certain contracts in the NBA that become that. Who's going to get stuck with this contract?
Yeah. And if you're Phoenix, you're betting that he's got better years ahead of him still through this contract extension. And it's worth noting he's 28 now, so he's Lauri Markkanen's age. And, yeah, he's going to be under contract for the next 4 years, as is Lauri Markkanen, the difference being that Book's going to be making $30+ million more, $20 million more.
On a stinky team.
Yeah, on a bad team.
He'll put up great numbers on a stinky team for a stinky organization and an owner that doesn't know what he's doing.
Which is how he began his career.
Which, ironically enough, is how he began his career.
So I do admire a player who's willing to stay in a city for his entire career. I still find some romance in that. And I wish the NBA had more of it, because I think the journey is part of the fun thing about watching the NBA and seeing guys' stories evolve. And
that's why I asked you that, because I don't think that this story is going to end that way.
I don't really agree. I don't think it will either.
I think he will end up playing for a different team in this contract.
I think that's probably true.
If for no other reason, then he'll get tired of being on a stinky team, I would guess.
Phoenix should trade him. It's best for Phoenix.
Phoenix should trade him. Yes, good point.
It's the right move for everybody. You need to get all the assets you can to start over, and you're not going to get them with Bradley Beal. You're going to have to pay him to go away. You didn't get enough for Kevin Durant to start a rebuild. I thought they did pretty well with Kevin Durant, but they didn't start the whole process over with all these rich pieces. You know, the only way to do that is to get rid of Devin Booker. So,
what's next?
Number 3, Vegas Summer League begins today. The Jazz have the day off. They'll be playing tomorrow.
Jazz will play Con Knippel and the Charlotte Hornets tomorrow night.
See, that was a very matter-of-fact headline. You're saying that's more like headlines
yes.
are written today.
Utah Jazz Summer League schedule. Is it exciting? It's not. Is it exactly what people Google search and then click on? Yes. So people just want pretty basic.
I feel like you could get like a take on Sin City or something, or, you know, the Oasis in the desert. I feel like we could do better.
Ace in the hole, right? You've got Ace Bailey going to Vegas. Yeah, there's a lot of options there, but it doesn't.
Brilliant.
But it doesn't do anything for you.
It could for us.
Yeah,
Why
okay,
are we
for us.
doing
sure,
these?
That's my fault. We'll start with that
matter of fact.
Write
headlines.
that down for tomorrow. Ace in the hole. Yeah. What I wanted to say though.
Are you telling Christian to make notes for you now?
Yeah, my memory's horrible.
Make a note, Christian.
What I was impressed, and this goes back to our conversation before we started Top 3 Stories, which was, to see the video of Ace's family dancing with his jerseys in his hotel room, and I suspect his hotel room's in Vegas. I kind of think they came and joined him there. That didn't look like Grand America, but I wasn't paying that much attention to the background. The greenest flags for Ace Bailey were not his enormous size and great rebounding and good shooting in Summer League. It was how he responded to every media session and was enjoyable and extraordinarily excited to be playing in the NBA and said nothing but the right things. He really has, no pun intended, aced his audition early on off the court.
All right, Christian, try it again. Well, let's move on to number 3.
All right, what's number 3?
Number 3, Ace in the hole. Bailey makes his Vegas Summer League debut tomorrow.
Okay.
That wasn't hard.
No, it wasn't.
I think it really snapped it up.
You're right. SEO's ruined my creativity. And I
Seriously.
that sapped it all out of me.
Get Maddie off your back, and let's start writing some headlines around here.
So he's been exceptional off the court. As good as he's been on the court, he's been more impressive, I think, in his interviews.
Stay tuned. We will have more coming up next. We definitely have a nominee for Bozo of the Week, so we'll get to that straight ahead. It's Jake and Ben, 97.5.
Do we have sound from
the
it?
KSL Sports Zone.
This is DJ and PK.
John and Joe Regia joining us, CBS Sports National College Football writer.
I believe last year was the year of the running back in the conference. Do you think that this year is the year of the quarterback?
I think it is. The amount of great quarterbacks that are coming back in the Big 12 is pretty astounding. Obviously, EA released their list of the top 20 quarterbacks, and the Big 12 had 5 on the list. There are the known commodities: Sam Levitt, Sawyer Robertson, Rocco Beck. They're guys with a lot of upside, too. Avery Johnson, I think, has a chance to take a huge step this year at Kansas State. I'm really excited about Connor Wegman and Devin Dampier. There should be at least 10 programs, and maybe more than that have above average quarterback situations in the power conferences. And there are a couple guys on this list who I would not be surprised to see get into national conversations.
Catch DJ and PK mornings from 6 to 10 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.